The brokerages that actually interview you and don't hire everybody, those are the ones that I would be looking for. I would want to find out who are the people that have a high standard of excellence, that are going to hold you accountable, that are going to push you, that are going to help you reach your goals faster than they would, faster than you would without them. And so I just want to challenge you to think, don't take the easy path, because if it's easy to join, it's probably easy not to do the stuff that you need to do to be successful. Welcome back to the Doug Edrington Podcast. Thank you for deciding to join me today to consume these thoughts, my content, my opinions on the real estate industry that we love so much. My goal is to strengthen our industry and just make us better by sharing thoughts from leaders in our space and challenging individuals to get better every day in this crazy industry that we all love. If you're joining for the first time, please like, share, comment, heart, or even DM me or email me at doug@jdouglasproperties. I'd love to have a conversation with you about our discussion today. So today I want to talk about behind the interview, finding your ideal broker or team. So you could be listening to this from two different perspectives. Maybe you're about to get in the business, or maybe you're at a place where you're saying, maybe I'm not at the right place and you're considering a change. Now, I want to throw first off a disclaimer for everybody out there that is currently already in the business at a brokerage. My goal here is not to convince you to make a move. My goal is to maybe take these questions that I'm going to challenge you to interview and go straight to your current broker and re-interview with them and get realigned with them, because oftentimes people get in this business, they join a brokerage. Sometimes they join the right one. Sometimes they may have joined the wrong one. But oftentimes you did join one. And before you say, I need to make a bounce, I want to challenge you to go straight to your broker, to your team leader, to your mentor, to your supervisor, whoever your manager may be, and say, here's the crazy thoughts I'm having in my head. And before I go shop around to other people, I should probably just have the conversation with you first to decide, am I at the right place? Chances are you are, and you're just misaligned with your leader. So that's my disclaimer. Now, if you're past that point, this is the time for you to start thinking, how do I make sure that when I make the move or when I join a company, it is the right place? Now, I have the opportunity, I guess you could say, to interview a ton of people. We have a VP of business development, aka full-time recruiter. I work alongside her, and she does tons of interviews, and I always jump in and meet people for the final interview as well. And what I've learned from this is that most people don't do their research. Most people don't interview companies. The common theme I hear from people, we're probably interviewing close to 30 people a month, and we're hiring maybe one or two. And when in interviewing these people, most of the time, we're the only place that they've interviewed. Or if they're already in the business, they tell us the same classic story of, I joined X brokerage because I knew somebody there, because they're the ones who talked me to get in the business. And based on a friendship or based on just an acquaintance, they jump into a pool not knowing what they jumped into. So you may be listening to this saying, yep, that's me. That's okay. You still learned a lot. You still have the opportunity to go re-interview with your leader and say, here's what I'm thinking, here's what's in my head. So use these questions for your current broker, or if you've already made that decision and you need to go shop, use these questions for your future brokerages that you're considering joining. Now, the thing that you really need to decide right out the gate, though, is, are you interested in being a solo agent, or are you interested in joining a team? If you're new to the industry and you're hearing this for the first time, I would do your research right away. Go ahead and dive in and start thinking about, what's the difference between a solo agent and a team? I'm going to give you just the simplest version of this that I can. A team will always outperform an individual, because there are multiple specialists throughout the team that's going to help pick up the slack in different areas, and then you get to become the specialist in the one area that you want to succeed at. Generally, we're talking about being a salesperson, right? A full-time in the field salesperson. And so if you're with a team, you get to be a specialist, all right? If you are solo, if you're considering being a solo agent, you're still joining a brokerage, you're still likely going to have a brand, but you are fully responsible for every aspect of your business, from the marketing to the transaction coordination, to who pays the bills, to who you're your own IT person. You are going to either take your own photos or you're going to pay someone to take your photos. You're going to design your own business card or you're going to hire someone to design your own business card. Someone's going to maintain your website or you're going to maintain your website. You have to do all things. What I have found is that either way, you still need to have a team mentality, whether you're going solo or you are going to join a team. And if you are solo, I would be asking the questions of the brokerage, what is provided for me so I can still be as much of a specialist as I can and not have to be all things to all people? So I just want to start out with just understanding the difference between solo and joining a team. Now, a lot of people are going to go straight into, well, what's money look like solo, or what does money look like as a team? I think just a rule of thumb that you should go into this process is recognize the fact that you're going to make most of the money as a solo agent, but you're going to be responsible for all the bills, right? And then if you're joining a team, you're likely going to be in some form of a 50-50 split, give or take a little, depending on the team. Not all teams are created equal, but there's going to be an area where you're not going to take all the money, but all the rest of the money is going to go somewhere else that's going to help you reach your goals. I think at the end of the day, if you're successful either way, it's a wash. You got to figure out what's right culturally for you and help you reach your long-term goals. Now, to get specific, as I said behind the interview, finding your ideal broker or team, I want to give you today a list of questions that if I were in your shoes, I would be asking. I had a great team member on my team. He's still a great dude. He's still a very successful individual, but unfortunately left our team. Spencer Heller, if you're watching, we miss you. Spencer was with us for a few years, and then he had a great opportunity to move up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and go do some business with his family. They're into development. They're doing all sorts of great things right now, so I can't blame him for what he did. But when he decided to leave, he said, you know what? I want to stick with the team, and I still want to practice real estate while I'm working my family business. And he came to me. It was such an interesting one-on-one because I don't get to do these too often. We sat down, and he said, I'm leaving in 6 months, and I need help making sure I pick the right team where I go to. And it was such a fun exercise for me because I really haven't had that intimate of a conversation with someone I know that well and so close to be able to help them go out there and interview. And so the first thing that we decided was interview as many teams and brokerages as you possibly can to learn as much as you can and also meet a lot of people. I believe Spencer interviewed 17 different teams in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I was very proud of him because every time he got out of an interview, he'd reach out to me and say, this is what I learned. This is how they operate. This is what they do. This is what's differently. And it was so fascinating to see everything that he learned along the way. He also built a lot of relationships. There's something valuable about having relationships with as many team leaders or brokers or owners in the business. Now, caveat to that, it's really important that you break up with them properly. Because if you're like Spencer and you interview 17 teams, that means 16 of them you've got to tell no to. So I think it's really important that you operate professionally and break up with them because the goal is you're going to do a lot of business and you're going to be sitting across the closing table from that agent that you interviewed with or one of their team members or one of their agents in their brokerage. And you definitely don't want to end on a bad note. As a broker owner, or a brokerage owner, I should say, I've interviewed some people that I would like to have, and they chose to go a different path. And I'm so happy for them that they took what was best for them and they didn't waste time with us. And so I'm happy to see them on the other side of the closing table. But it is a little awkward when someone totally ghosts you and then you see them presenting you an offer. So just don't be that person. Don't be that person. Make sure you properly break up with them. So I'm working backwards here because you will interview multiple people and you will have to tell someone no. Now, let's get into these interview questions. The thing to consider is that most brokerages will hire you. I think you probably know this if you're in the business. And if you're starting in this journey, understand that if you have a license and you have a pulse, most brokerages will hire you. I absolutely can't stand that part of our industry because I don't believe that brokerages should be made up of body farms that are just 100% commission. And if you sell something, great. If you don't sell something, who cares? That's the philosophy of a lot of brokerages. They're body farms. They just recruit as many people as they can, and they win on sheer numbers. I think that's a painful way to win. Now, the brokerages that actually interview you and don't hire everybody, those are the ones that I would be looking for. I would want to find out who are the people that have a high standard of excellence, that are going to hold you accountable, that are going to push you, that are going to help you reach your goals faster than they would, faster than you would without them. And so I just want to challenge you to think, don't take the easy path, because if it's easy to join, it's probably easy not to do the stuff that you need to do to be successful. So let's dive into some of these questions. Know that they should be asking you questions. If they're not asking you questions, I'd be concerned. But if they do, that's great. Answer them truthfully. Be honest. Now, but you're going to have the opportunity to ask them questions, okay? One of the questions, these are in no particular order, but this might be my first question that I would ask. I would ask your broker, team leader, future leader, whoever this manager may be, I would ask them first question, who leads you? Who leads you? And I think this is such an interesting question that Spencer and I discovered as we were helping him through the process up in Fort Wayne. Because, as many of you know, my coach is the coach, the king of all, Tom Ferry. And I got to say, that's a pretty darn good coach to have in my corner because I'm constantly pushed. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have any coach at all. And so when you think about, I'm going to go to work for this person, they're going to challenge me, they're going to hold me accountable. Who's pushing them? Who's going to help give them new content? Who's going to help keep them up to date with what's going on in the industry and where do we need to change? We know the real estate environment is constantly changing. And if they have their blinders on and all they know is what they know, you are already limiting yourself to where you can go and what you're capable of and the future opportunities you may have. So my first question is to them, who coaches you? Who leads you? Who holds you accountable? And I hope they have a great answer to that. I hope they impress you and wow you and surprise you and get you excited. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to climb the ladder and get to more than just being a salesperson, I hope that everybody I hire is coming for my job because I want to continue to grow and I'm going to need someone to replace me. So first question, who leads you? Who leads you? Question number 2. I think this one's interesting. What is expected from me as an agent? I'm asking this to the leader. What's expected from me at this company from a goal perspective? What's expected from me as an agent from a goal perspective, let's say annually, quarterly, monthly, whatever it may be? If they say, well, it's really up to you and you hitting your goals, I'd want to have them elaborate on that. Because I'm looking for a company that has some form of minimum standards. At our brokerage, we expect people to be full-time. We expect people to hit a quota, for a lack of a better term. And I call it a minimum standard because I want our culture of our company to be surrounded with people that like to win, that have big goals, that are exciting to be around. And if the brokerage that you are going to work for doesn't have any goals or expectations of you, that tells me that they're probably not going to help you reach any goal. I hope that makes sense. Next question, number 3 here. Again, no particular order. I would ask them, explain to me what the culture is like here. And do you see me adding to that culture, or will I feel like an outcast? Now, in coaching other teams, working in my own brokerage, have only worked at one other brokerage before we opened up our own, I've learned enough about culture to recognize how much it matters and how important it is. You are joining a family, your work family, right? These people you are likely, hopefully, going to be around more than you are your own family. That's the way the world works. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you're around your peers, you're around your colleagues, and you're going to spend a lot of time with them. You got to like them. Right? And so you can already evaluate just the individual that you're speaking to. Is this someone that I am going to feel comfortable going up and asking questions to? Is this someone that I believe can hold me accountable? Is this someone that I feel will challenge me day in and day out and help me reach my goals? We want to start with them, but then I want to know about the rest of the company. Can this leader articulate what the culture of the company is like, and does it fit you? I have found there to be many different cultures, and they're all, like, a lot of them are successful. It really doesn't have the question doesn't have anything to do with the level of success or not. It has to do with, is this going to be the family? I like to call it the vacation test. This is one thing that we think about when we're hiring individuals. Do they pass the vacation test? And what I mean by that is we're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The closest beach to us is down in the panhandle of Florida, like 30A, kind of around that Destin area. And there has been a few times where a group of us have gone together and we've driven down to the beach. Shout out to Jimmy Burgess, the CEO of Berkshire down in the 30A area. I've gone down there and we've done some events with him, and we've brought some team members with us. And you got to think, if I'm going to go to work with a group of people, can I get in a car with them and travel with them for a 6-7 hour drive, spend a few days with them, and then come back and not want to jump out of the car, or worse, throw them out of the car? This is something that you want to ask yourself. Does this group of people fit my culture? And a great way is the vacation test. That's the one that I would challenge you on. Another question I might ask, number 4 here, is, my goal is X. So as you go into the interview, you better clearly have a goal. Okay. Now, you may not know how to totally formulate that goal to how many homes you need to sell, because you may not know the split model yet. You may not understand how many leads you may receive, or if you're creating those on your own. But you at least need to have a financial goal. I like to break it down into 3 goals personally. This is my survival goal, this is my good life goal, and this is my dream goal for the first year at this company. Now, I don't mean dream like hit the lottery dream. I mean like you're really proud of yourself. So I would first, before you go in that interview, go ahead and formulate, my survival goal is X. Now, if you have a spouse at home, or you have another source of income, or maybe you were just fortunate enough to be born into some wealth and your survival goal is 0, that's okay. That's absolutely okay. I would be transparent with that leader so they know what they're working with, and see how they're going to push you to reach higher goals than just survival level, right? But their survival goal. Good life goal is, I'm proud of what I did in my first year. I'm able to go out to eat. I'm able to have a vacation or 2. I'm going to save a little bit of money. Pretty proud of my first year. Dream goal is the stretch goal, right? If I can do this, an achievable stretch goal, if I can do this, I would be ecstatic. If you walk into that broker or that team leader and you say, my goal is X, or here's my 3 goals broken in the way I just did, who is going to help me reach that goal? And what does accountability look like here? I think that's a really interesting question. Who's going to help me reach that goal? Let's start with that one first. Is it going to be the person that you're speaking to? Or do they have a trained staff that's going to help hold you accountable and train you? Is there layers to that? Is there a trainer? Is there a coach? Is it a peer-based setup where it's all about peer accountability? One of the things we have at our brokerage is we have a culture of accountability. What does that look like, though? I'm looking for a very articulated answer from this person, because if they can't clearly articulate who is going to help you, I can tell you right away you're going to be lost and you're going to be alone. So you want to figure out who that is. But then next, what does accountability look like? And I think that's a really interesting question. What does accountability look like if I were to join this team? Because if they tell you it's up to you, again, that's not a culture of accountability. I don't know any sports team in the world that says it's up to you, whatever you want to do. There's a coach, there's a staff, there's a camaraderie, there's a culture of accountability to help push people. That's the kind of place I want to join. Now, if they say accountability here is a couple different things. One, yes, we want to help get you to this goal. Like at my brokerage, we have a standard. In their first year, everybody makes 6 figures. After that, it's up to that agent, and we work one-on-one with that individual to figure out what that push looks like for them. But even to get to that 6 figures, there is a culture of accountability that says to receive leads, you must do X, Y, and Z. And this is how you get turned on, and this is how you get turned off. Because as a brokerage, we don't want to waste opportunity to someone that is not holding themselves accountable, aren't pushing, aren't motivated. Also, here's the cadence of the meetings that you're going to have to make sure you're reaching your goals and improving your skill set. Cadence is key, right? We got to do things consistently to have the progress that we want. So I would just ask, who's going to help me reach that goal? What does accountability look like? Number 5, what does training look like in this organization? And you could ask again, who teaches it? So when it comes to what does training look like, I think there's a difference between training and coaching. Training for me is this is the team way. This is how we do X, Y, and Z. Here are our SOPs. And this is when you join this team, this is the process you're going to have to follow. I hope that every brokerage or team out there has some form of training, right? Then the next question is who teaches it? There are a lot of brokers out there that have lots of training and they let salespeople teach those trainings. As there is value to that if that is the case, I'm going to ask who coaches them on teaching. Because I can tell you, I've met a lot of agents that have been at other brokerages and they say, yeah, they have lots of training. I go to them and I just hear these big dogs in the office talk about how awesome they are and how great they are. And I can't figure out how to apply it to me. That's a real life situation that you got to look out for. So I like the idea that you're being surrounded by successful people, but do they know how to transfer the skill to you? So I'd want to know, what does training look like? What does the cadence look like to the organization? And then in addition, does it shift from training to coaching at a certain point in time? Because coaching is getting the best out of you and what you do and what you're most interested in. So all of these are great questions to ask. Number 6, what is the average per person productivity of all the agents in the organization? And then I'd also wonder, how does that align with my goals? If you think of just stats purely, statistics leaves clues. Just keep that in mind. Statistics leaves clues. It doesn't always tell the whole story, but it leaves clues for you to help figure out, okay, now that I have this clue, what more questions do I need to ask? For example, if someone has a very low per person productivity number, or a brokerage or a team has a very low per person productivity, that would lead me to say, okay, what does retention look like? Do we just have a lot of new people this year? What were previous years when we didn't have a lot of new people? Or if they have a very high amount of per person productivity, like their high number of units across the board averaging out, I would ask, what makes that happen? That's pretty exciting and interesting too. So I'd want to know just some stats on the company, like where do you rank? How do we rank up amongst our competitors? And most importantly, what is the per person productivity? And also, especially if you're talking to a team, if that team leader is in production, I'd want to know what's the per person productivity, not including the team leader, because often the team leader does more than half of the business. And so you want to figure out what opportunities you have in comparison to the team leader if they are actually out in the field operating like an agent as well. So statistics leaves clues. Make sure you lean on that one. Number 7, I've got 10 here. Number 7, is there a path beyond just selling homes? What is the future career opportunities that you could have joining this organization? Now, that doesn't fit everybody. Some people say, I have no interest in being in leadership. I don't want any other responsibilities. I just want to focus on sales. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But in this world, most of the people we interview, that's a question that they have. One of the previous C-level individuals from Zillow, I got to listen to a speech that he did at an event a few years back, and they had Harvard Business School do a study on why people leave, just any businesses across the organization, and I think they surveyed like 150,000 people. And I remember him standing on stage and asking the crowd, why do you think people leave? And there were lots of answers that came out, but they didn't necessarily align with what the survey showed. And what the survey showed is the number one reason that people leave is their direct relationship with their supervisor. Good or bad, direct relationship with their supervisor. That's the reason why, number one reason why people leave. Number 2 was a path. They didn't feel they had a path to grow within the company. So knowing that these things are so important, I'm leaning on number 2 here from the survey, is what is the path in this company? How could I potentially grow? Are there opportunities to get into leadership? Because I don't know about you, but selling houses is fun. Selling houses makes a lot of money. Selling houses helps you reach your goals. But do you want to do it for 30 years? Do you want to do it for 40 years? Or do you want to spice things up a little bit? Do you want to get into training? Do you want to get into teaching? Is there a specialty that you have that you could offer that would be beneficial to the company long term that both parties could mutually benefit from? So I would ask them, what's the path? Because if there is no path, I'm not saying that that's a terrible thing. I just want you to know before you join. I want you to know what you're getting into, because oftentimes many people get in the business and they say, I want to eventually become a broker. I want to eventually become a team leader. And many scenarios, there is a path. But if you don't ask, you don't know. And I don't want you to invest years and years of time to find out that it's a dead end for you. Keep that in mind. Number 8. What does agent collaboration look like within the agents that are in this organization? What does agent collaboration look like? What is my peer-to-peer relationships going to look like? I have seen organizations that you are truly alone. Many times people join a team because they literally say they're lonely. I've seen people leave cloud brokerages because they say, it sounded great at first, but I don't have an office to go to. And some cloud brokerages, they have formulated offices, so I'm not knocking on them, but it's just a common theme. They're alone. So if you're one of those people and you're potentially joining a team, for example, or even a brokerage, and you're looking for that camaraderie, I would ask them, what does the collaboration look like? Is there peer-to-peer role playing? Do I have the opportunity to go shadow other agents to learn from them? An agent or a leader should be able to not just tell you that they can. I would challenge them to show me on the calendar, show me in their Slack threads, show me through text messages of where that leader is actually being a connector amongst their peers to encourage collaboration. Many people on our team, after they join, I ask them, I was like, hey, what do you like about being here so far? And they go straight into the team. It's not about me. It's not about the leads. It's not about the comp plan. It's not about any of that. They talk about the community that they're a part of because they can learn so much faster from being able to ask many people questions and shadow and learn. It also gives them fulfillment when they also get to teach and give when they get to that point. And that point comes pretty quickly because a new agent could be right behind you and they're learning something that you've already learned. So find out what collaboration looks like. Number 9, what does marketing, branding, and lead generation look like, and how will I be able to leverage that here? What does marketing, branding, and lead generation look like, and will I be able to leverage that here? Especially for the brand new agent that's joining a brokerage. Oftentimes you assume you will be handed leads, and that is not always the case. I would challenge them to figure out what are the lead sources that come from the company. If I were to go do my own marketing, is the company supportive of that, or am I on my own? I would go deep into this conversation and learn what are the resources, are there costs involved, and really, especially for the new agent, what does lead generation look like? Because you only have so many friends and family members that you're going to squeeze in your first year of business. And by the way, they're not going to, as much as they love you, they're not going to trust you in your first year for their biggest purchase or their biggest transaction that they're ever going to do in their life. They love you, but are they actually going to send you a ton of business in their first year? I wouldn't count on it. I would rather get trained and learn and get out there in the field with other opportunities that are handed to me of strangers. Not to take advantage of this situation, you need to be trained before you're there. But once you've got a bunch of transactions under your belt, then your family and your friends are going to see you thrive, and you're going to attract them to want to do business with them. So find out what lead generation looks like. Find out what branding and marketing looks like. The last one, number 10. One of the things I like to ask in all of our interviews is usually the VP of Business Development is interviewing originally in the first interviews, and then I jump in, and I always like to ask the question of both parties. I look at Mandy, who's our VP of Business Development, and I say, hey, Mandy, from this applicant, what are you really excited about for them joining our team? And what red flags do you have? Ask it in front of the person. And then I let the applicant know, I want to ask you the same thing. What are you really excited about you joining this team? And what red flags do you have about this team? This is going to test a couple things. I want to see, because I already know red flags that I would have of joining a team, even my own. Like, I have a question. We haven't covered this. I'm a little nervous about this situation, whatever it may be. There's always going to be some red flag. I want to know how open and honest they are about feedback on me. So you're the applicant. Ask the person you're interviewing with, what red flags do you have about me? And what do you think I'm going to be challenged with? Or what surprises might I have? Even ask the question, what do I not know to ask? What do most agents wish they had asked in the interview before they started? And figure out, how do they handle confrontation? Not to say that I want you to be confrontational, but I want you to ask the hard questions, because you want to see what they're going to be like in a tough situation, right? I also want to know how honest they're going to be with me, because this starts the first level of accountability right out the gate. These are the things I'm concerned about with you, and these are the areas we're going to have to work on. It might create more questions. So I hope these are my top 10 interview questions. I could go on and on and on. Feel free to reach out to me. Comment below if you have other questions that you think we should be asking here, because this list could go on and on. But at the end of the day, know if you don't get the job there, it was probably a blessing in disguise, because you haven't found the right place yet. Keep hunting. Interview just like Spencer did, and he did land a team after 17 interviews. Interview as many people as you can, because it will eventually become clear what the right place is for you. Thank you so much for listening to the Doug Edrington Podcast. Hope this brought you lots of value. I will see you next time.